Hey everybody, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here, and we're jumping right into another Swiss Vintage Masters draft. Looks like the popularity of these has kind of gone down. There's only like 830 people in the release room, or yeah, that's I don't know, not as much as it was before. I'll tell you that much. So Spirit Mirror, I haven't opened this one yet. Let's see. Beginning of your upkeep, if there are no reflection tokens on the battlefield, put a 2/2 white reflection creature token on the battlefield. Destroy target reflection. If there are no reflection tokens on the battlefield, you get a white, but if you already have one, I don't quite understand the value. Turnabout is good if I end up Storm, which I haven't done yet. Turnabout is pretty insane. And even if you don't end up Storm, it still taps up everything they have down. So I think this is actually a really valuable spell to have, because I did want to try out Mono Blue Storm at some point. I've kind of got an idea of how to do it, but we'll see if it's even a possibility. I mean, you don't do it with Temporal Fissure, really. You're looking for better cards to do that with, like Brain Freeze. Actually, I think Brain Freeze is just the one, the go-to, because even Tendrils is in Vintage Masters, but you have to hit 10 Tendrils to deal 20 damage, where I think you only have to hit Brain Freeze like maybe close to around the same amount, but you pay 2 less mana, and you don't have to be in black, so I think I like that more. Temporal Fissures typically go late. I could take the Ophidian. That's not exactly what these decks want to do, though. Killer Whale, of course, is good, too. I mean, the cheaper the better, I suppose, but there's nothing in here that's super cheap. I mean, Prophetic Bolt is the best card in the pack, but I think I'm going to stick with the Ophidian because I love it so much. It's not as good as Prophetic Bolt, but it's also not in red, and if I could make Storm work, I'd like to. Wow, Psychotog, that card's awesome. Brain Freeze, here's our kill spell. So, I mean, think about it. You start with a 40-card deck. I think the thing is, once they see you're running Brain Freeze, they probably up the counts of stuff in their deck. You know what I mean? But let's try and make Storm. I mean, if I can't, I can't, and I screw it up. But I think at this point, people are probably just interested in seeing something like that, I'm sure. And I'm not exactly a Storm player at heart, so could work out. And even if you get multiple Brain Freezes, think about it. You get like 2 or 3, you're still sitting pretty. You cast like 2 spells in a turn, then 2 Brain Freezes, and you're going to be milling a lot. Psychotog, though, best card, I think, in this pack, but we're going to take the Brain Freeze. Survival, also very good. Some sort of blue-green madness build, which would also be good. Okay, so now we have Dark Writ. That looks like it's in our wheelhouse. Ramping, getting a spell out of it. Right, and then I can untap all my lands at some point and cast everything again. Makes sense. Alright, so let's take the Dark Ritual. So we really need Frantic Searches, though, to make this deck work, I think. What else is good in this pack? I mean, Finnorn Elves is of course good. Gaia's Embrace is good. Nature's Lore ramps as well, so a couple ramp spells in green. Got some cycling. Mesmeric Fiend is cool. Get some information. Get a cheap dude. So a cheap spell plus steal a card from him is nice. Reign of the Pit also good. Yeah, we're going to go Dark Writ. See if we can't make that work. Okay. So now, Deep Analysis. You get to flash it back for 2. That's a cheap spell. And it draws you cards. I could see that being valuable. Baron Moor. Cycling is actually pretty valuable too. You're just digging towards more of your Storm action. Stoic Champion is a great spell. Goblin General for the Goblin deck, of course. Solitary Emissary. Good beatdown cards in here. Let's just go Deep Analysis. If you get some sort of discard effect, that might even be better. Here was our frantic search. Okay. So we're starting it off now. We're starting to pick up some storm effects. So as many of these as possible. If you end up just like, think about it. If you just get a deck of like 8 frantic searches and a brain freeze, you just win. So the more the merrier on frantic search. Here's a Cabal Ritual. There's some more good stuff for our strategy for sure. Lonely Sandbar would be fine as well. Like I said, any of these cycle lands are going to be fine for Storm. Not amazing, but just something cheap that you can do to find more interaction with your Storm. Even one drops like Carnophage aren't good, but at least they're a cheap. They're a cheap spell. Possibly you play early to block, or you can get your Storm count up for 1 extra mana, which is also good. Well, I mean, Tyrant's Choice is cool. I wish that I wasn't killing him with Brain Freeze, then it would actually make more sense. If I was playing Tendrils, Tyrant's Choice would be much better, but we might still get a Tendrils, so maybe I want to take that. Otherwise, Cloud Gen is 6 mana. It's a finisher, but not super interested in it. Death's Head Buzzard's cool and all, but guess we'll take the choice. Okay, so Kenai Aven cycles, which is good. Addle's not bad either. But I think I'd still rather have the Aven. Sometimes you want the 2/3 bird. I mean, I guess this stops like, what, Counterspell or something? Or early beats. But I don't know, a 2/3 flyer, just in case Storm doesn't work out. And also, like I said, the cycling is very, very good. I'm going to take the cycler. We're digging for more stuff. Alright, I mean, we could do Temporal Fissure. Killer Whale's also a finisher. I mean, you do get to bounce everything with Temporal Fissure. I feel like it's kind of a trap. But could just take the Sarcomancy. Might make sense. Just get a 1-drop spell. Because, I mean, my finisher is Brain Freeze. So let's take the Sarcomancy. Let's just get our curve down. Alright, Putrid Imp. That way I can discard Deep Analysis for some extra value. And it's a 1-drop, so okay. The more 1-drops, the better. Yeah, I don't really need Rain of the Pit, but let's cut black if we're going to make that work. Alright, so here's our Barrenmoor. We're going to take that. And foil Breath of Life or Urborg Uprising. Well, I guess we can let people play Breath of Life decks. We're not going to play Urborg Uprising, but yeah, getting last pick Carnophage is actually kind of good. So let's keep our curve down. Hopefully we can see a couple more frantic searches over these next couple packs. We've kind of got our game plan down at this point, which is nice. Here's another Dark Writ. That's going to help. Rescind is fine too. Animate Dead is of course good. World Gorger Dragon is pretty sketchy. There was some Legacy crazy deck that utilizes this, but maybe someone in the comments can remember exactly how that goes. I know I wasn't very descriptive there. Typically you can table Dark Writs, but in our case I think let's just really try and focus fire and make this work. So we're going to need some card draw as well to get our counts up for the Brain Freeze. So let's just take the Dark Writ for now. Okay, so Nightscape Familiar is actually what we want because it makes all of our blue spells cheaper, thereby making Storm easier. Edict would also be very good as removal, but I just want to make sure we get this Familiar. Obviously Goblin War Chief is very good. Stoic Champion number 2. Carevex Torch is insane. I mean, you can almost, at this point, just play Dark Writ, ramp, Carevex Torch deck or something, but no, we're going to go for this Storm, so let's take the Familiar. Make our Storm spells cheaper. Expunge is some removal that we can cycle. It's right in our wheelhouse, I think. Otherwise, it's just Famine as a board wipe, but no, I think we're just taking the Cycler. Makes sense. Some removal. So Scrivener for bringing stuff back, like Dark Raid or something, or Brain Freeze for a second go around it, or a Frantic Search maybe. This one's expensive though, but it is part of the Storm deck, I'm pretty sure. Dark Hatchling's a better card as well, but at this point we're kind of just trying to make, well, here's a High Tide. Alright, so we're just trying to make this deck work. So we're going to take the High Tide, which doubles our mana, which is also valuable, even though we're more black at this point, but we have stuff we can eventually cut to make this work a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and take the High Tide. Here's our Frantic Search number 2, definitely slamming that. It's exactly what we're looking for. The more of these, the better we're going to be doing. Mesmeric Fiend would be fine as well. Lightning Rift is very fun for those decks to get to jam. Obsessive Search, exactly what we want as well. The more of these, the better, with the more the Frantic Searches, because then we can just draw 2, discard 2, untap, draw again, play another spell. You get it. Factor Fiction is some card advantage, but could just take the Lonely Sandbar, could take the Carnophage as yet another one-drop dude to make Brain Freeze go off. Factor Fiction. I mean, our opponent gets to separate the two, so I don't think we really get to set this up as well as we want. Maybe with a Deep Analysis or a Scrivener or something. Let's just take the Sandbar. Get another cycle effect, help us consistently get to this place we want to be at. So I already see cards I don't want to play. I mean, Ophidion's actually probably fine if we're on the play and they don't have a good defense. I mean, it blocks well. It can get in occasionally. Holds them up, buys some time. Ivory Tower is surprisingly something this deck might want because I'm going to be holding my hand the entire time. Fallen of Scar is just terrible for us because it can't block, which is all we really need. Alright, I think we're kind of forcing Ivory Tower here, which is fine. I actually do think this card is fine for us. Alright, Circular Logic, I mean counter spells, but I think we probably take Tyrant's Choice number 2. It's not even making them lose life though. Not even that good. I mean, Circular Logic, because I have the Frantic Searches, I could actually see that. But it's like, by the time you have stuff in your graveyard, you already should win, is how I feel. But I guess I'll take it anyway, because I'm not really playing anything else. Alright, we'll take a Temporal Fissure. I guess it's another Scry, or a Storm card, so could potentially make it work. Alright, we need a little bit more work to make this deck better. So far, we're actually not that terrible, surprisingly, considering I've pretty much just been trying to force Storm since the beginning. We have our way to win. We've got some good card draw stuff. We don't care about Trapper so much, or I don't really think we cared about any of those cards. Certainly don't care about Wall of Diffusion. Really don't care about Mana Prism. I guess we'll cut some Goblins for the Goblin deck. Scourge Familiar, Spark Spray, neither of them matter. I guess Spark Spray kills our Nightscape Familiar, so we'll cut that. And Wall of Diffusion, okay. So, pack 3, I would like to see even more Frantic Searches, some more Obsessive Searches. Got the ramp going on. Is Tropical Island worth some moolah? Tropical Island, what do we got? 8? Ooh, alright, so finally got some card of pretty good value here. Unfortunately, we're passing a second Nightscape Familiar, which would be money, but could be a chance we table it. In the meantime, I've got to take 8 tickets, because I am just... If you don't pull power in these drafts, these are like the worst drafts ever. You need to open, and we obviously didn't open power for like the 9th time or whatever, so... this is just such an unforgiving format if you're not opening stuff of value. It really is. It's just extremely expensive. Nightscape Familiar number 2, there he is, taking him. It's exactly what this deck wants. Just make our blue spells dirt cheap so we can just go off. So this is 23 cards right now. I'm looking at cutting stuff like Tyrant's Choice. I'm looking at cutting stuff like Temporal Fissure because it doesn't actually kill our opponent. I mean, Bad River School, I think we're just going way deep on these Nightscape Familiars, as deep as we possibly can. Geez, Bladewing and Magister of Worth, two really good cards. Yeah, we're just slamming the Nightscape Familiar, going to town on making stuff cheaper. Cloud of Fairies would be nice, but I would take more Brain Freezes, more Frantic Searches. That would still help. But all the familiars I can take. Yeah, I really don't mind just going super deep on these. Battle Screech is in here, jeez. Lonely Sandbar, yeah. Nightscape Familiar. Okay, so unfortunately it does not look like this pack's helping us all that much. We can take the Lonely Sandbar. We can take the Edict. Don't really need any of this. Taking the Sandbar. Don't need a second Temporal Fissure. Don't really need any of this. I guess Floodplain could... what's the word I'm looking for? Deck thin. No obsessive searches, no frantic searches this pack. That's not good. That's not good. Just Temporal Fissures for days, but... Here's a Tendrils. Alright. I mean... Do we even want Tendrils at this point? I guess we do. It's another way to win, I guess. Nostalgic Dreams I actually want, but not going to be able to make the green mana work. I think we take it anyway. There's nothing in here. Alright, Addle versus Mesmeric Fiend. I think we can take Fiend. Slows him up, maybe. Carnophage. Just take more 1-drops. So we can go off earlier. I don't even need the Imp, I don't think. Probably. Well, I kind of just want to hate the General, to be honest. Goblin deck's the quickest thing against us. Another Imp. Rescind can cycle, I guess, or bounce. It's probably more valuable. None of these matter. Alright, so that was a horrible Pack 3. We had a really good thing going in Packs 1 and 2, but Pack 3 was just dreadfully bad. It made all our stuff cheaper, but just no storm count upping stuff at all. So very disappointed with that. But, I mean, I guess the good news is we probably have enough to make a storm deck work, but it's not as good as I think it could have been if that Pack 3 had been just a little bit more helpful. Like a third Frantic Search would have just been the difference between like an okay storm deck and a great one, you know, something like that. Like we got all these Nightscape Familiars to make our blue cheaper. It would have been great if we'd gotten some more stuff for that to make that just a little bit better. And we didn't even see a second Deep Analysis, which is surprising. I would have killed for that at this point. Just killed for it with quad Nightscape Familiar. It would have been just broken good in this deck. So some unfortunate aspects, but we'll see what where we're at, I guess. I've got zombies for days, I guess. That's good news. Turnabout's still fine. Probably Aven, but we'll see. This is 25, and that's without the Tyrant's Choice. The problem is you either go on the Brain Freeze plan or you go on the Tendrils plan. I mean, Tyrant's Choice is going to be better with the Tendrils plan, but Tendrils is also more expensive. I need to cast 9 spells or 10 spells to win with Tendrils. Thankfully, this makes that less. So if I cast Tyrant's Choice, I really only have to cast 8 additional spells, right? Or this deals 2, so that would bring him down to 14. So then I would, so 7 spells with Tendrils and Tyrant's Choice, right? I can tell already I'm going to have a hard time counting up storm count stuff. You always have to remember the initial spell by itself, too. So don't just count the additional storm effects, to count the original as well. Okay, so this stuff is good. Guess we can probably cut the Kenai Haven. It does cycle, but it's not exactly necessary. So, do I want to do one or the other? I kind of feel like I do. I either want to go on the Tendrils plan or I want to go on the Brain Freeze plan, but I don't want to do both. So, I guess we go on the Brain Freeze plan, right? They start the game with 33 cards in their deck. So, if you hit 10 Storm, you hit 30 cards. So by the time you hit Brain Freeze, they will lose to it. Plus it gives you their entire deck's information. And it gets cheaper with Nightscape Familiar as well. And I'm just playing these because obviously they're just 1-drops. So if I have to play them early, I can. But they are a very cheap way to get a storm count up. Just get 1 mana, up my storm count. Yeah, having 1 obsessive search and 2 frantic searches. At that point, I almost feel like I was just fighting with someone this entire time. You know what I mean? We can probably cut a Carnophage for a Ivory Tower. This could at least maybe net us some life if we play it on turn 1, because we're not playing spells that often. And it's also a 1 mana storm count, so that could be good. So we're trying to play a bunch of spells and then win with Brain Freeze, of which we have 1 of. Maybe we do need to play the Tendrils. And if I do, then I probably cut. Can't really cut any of this removal because they both cycle, so they're actually really, really valuable for this deck. Trying to find the right components as fast as possible to kill with Brain Freeze or Tendrils. So if we're going to keep Tendrils in, let's try and make the Tyrant's Choice work, because it works so well alongside the Tendrils for that storm count. So maybe we cut the Mesmeric Fiend, but then we probably just cut the Carnophage. We can get rid of some of these crappy 1-drops, because although they're cheap, well, they are cheap. There's no although there. They are cheap. Turnabout's really important, though, for untapping everything, making us continue to play spells. God, I wish I'd gotten either 2 of one or 2 of the other. That's really disappointing. Just completely different plans. But I feel like we need 2 ways to win. Just one way to win. If either of them get milled or for some reason as your last card, you're just screwed. Alright, so we do have to cut something. Unless I want to play 16 lands. Which, with all the ramp, maybe we could. Alright, maybe we play 16 lands. But then we still need to... I still want the Tyrant's Choice. So let's cut Maybe the Imp. Maybe the Carnophage, actually. It's kind of a liability to have it, a little bit. Whereas the Sarcomancy, at least, I'm likely going to have zombies most of the time. Alright, this deck is... I have no idea. This is my first Storm deck in Vintage Masters, so I really don't know if it's good or if it's terrible. But, God, I just know that it's short on stuff that really could have greatly benefited this deck. Okay, so let's look at our 12 and 14. We need these guys. Could play this for deck thinning. It's probably not a terrible idea. Is playing 16 lands an issue? I actually don't know. I doubt it. But I really don't know. So we're just going to experiment with 16 lands. So we've got 3 sources of blue, 1 source of black. I think we're going to have to up our black count more. So this would be 9 sources of black and 7 sources of blue. We need double blue to cast Turnabout. But 7 sources of blue you can typically get there. But then again, I kind of want to cycle these. So let's go maybe like 8 sources of blue, 8 sources of black. Because the thing is, with the double Dark Writ and the Cabal Ritual, I don't think having black is going to be too much of an issue. And we actually want to get some full value out of this High Tide too, I guess. So having a bigger blue count is better. Hell, maybe we even go down to 7 sources of black. Because it's not like... Really, you just need the 1 to play the Nightscape Familiar to make all your blue cheaper. So the more islands we have, the better. But we still, at the same time, need to hit black. So 7 sources of black should allow us to do that. And once we get to Tendrils territory, we're already going to be playing Dark Rituals and stuff. So the double black's not a big issue. So 7, I'm running a long time here, but I just want to make sure my count's right. So 7 sources of black, 9 sources of blue, some deck thinning, winning with Brain Freezer, Tendrils. I think we're trying it. How good is this deck? I don't know. It could have been much better, like I said. Some more frantic searches, some more obsessive searches. This deck would have been in a brand new territory, I think. But we're definitely going to try it and see what we can do. And I'll see you round 1.